Thanks for joining our second Live with Marketers here right in Cleveland, Ohio at the Content Marketing World. Today we're going to be exploring how B2B marketing and video are the hottest CTA on the web today, and why B2B marketers should not be dismissing the video as an integral part of their content strategy. Here at Content Marketing World, we are surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of savvy marketers and thought leaders, and I am delighted to say that we have two heavy hitters and big thinkers when it comes to video of all sizes and all brands. Today we have Stacy Adams and Chad. Stacy is from Beyond and Chad is from Shootsta. Thank you guys so much for joining me.
Of course,
you're welcome. Thanks for having us.
At LinkedIn, we have a tradition of when we meet a new person, we say, what's not on your LinkedIn profile? So is there anything that got left on the cutting room floor when you guys built your profile probably 10 years ago?
Yeah, there's a reason it's not on my profile, so I don't know if I want to share it with the rest of the internet.
Come on, open up. Open up.
Look, I'm a bit of a superhero nerd. I like superheroes. It's fun. Slowly converting my wife to the dark side.
Do you have a favorite superhero?
I like Spider-Man. He's just a good guy.
Big fan of him.
Yeah, and if I had that body, I'd wear tights all the time.
100%. Same.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Love that. Follow up.
Oh, man. Yeah, superpower. Shooting webs is cool. A little gross, but I think I can use it well.
Yeah.
What about you, Stacy?
Invisibility for me on
That's
the superhero
creepy. That's creepy.
Invisibility would be super cool.
You never choose invisibility.
Or flying. I think flying. Okay, we'll go with flying.
Save us so much time.
As far as what's not on my profile, I'm a voracious reader.
Yes.
I read between 40 and 50 novels a year. Yeah. Memoirs, fiction, but crime fiction, the more murdery, the better.
Murder is having a moment right now, isn't it?
Murder is having a moment.
Let's jump in on that note, transition from murder to video.
Yes, please.
What are your takes on why B2B buyers are craving video as part of their process for gathering information and making buying decisions?
I think like any individual, right? Like you can see these trends out there that video is being consumed at just a rate that's unprecedented, right? And because it's so easy.
Yeah.
And so as a B2B buyer, you're like, I need information quickly.
Yep.
And I, for one, I hit a web page. If you've got an explainer video on there, I'm gonna hit that play button just because I don't have a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
And so when you can hit those points concisely, video is an amazing tool.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we're moving so far away from feature selling to solution selling, and the idea of being able to get across information, like you said, very quickly in a way that's engaging, right? Any movement or something that pulls your eye and pulls you in and kind of gets you involved in the consuming process, right? Of content will perform much better than something that takes work or more time. We've got buzzes and bings and text messages and messaging to follow, and you only have a few minutes sometimes to look at something or get information. And video is a great way to get that information across.
It's also easily shareable.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you got to bring other people into the buying process, right? And to be able to say, hey, here's a quick explainer video, or here's something that's going to run you through why I'm positioning this. Like people are actually going to watch that as opposed to, here's a 45-page document that you have to read.
So if our consumers are so eager to consume video content, what are sort of the myths that you see B2B marketers manifesting as means to maybe dismiss video as an integral part of their strategy?
It has to be expensive.
Yeah.
But I think when we started Shootsta, even 4 years ago, I think there was a notion that if you're going to do video well, you need a 6-person crew and a catering van. That's what it takes.
Very
and so
LA.
It's so accessible now. There's so many tools that you can use to get started with video. So it doesn't have to be this overly produced piece of content.
Right. And I think that there is some bad video out there. And so I think that you're right. People think to do good video, to do it well, you need a lot of money, and you need a lot more expertise than you might have because traditionally in a marketing organization, you're hiring for content, you're hiring writers, you're hiring graphic designers. We're still moving from print into digital, and now from digital into video. And so that mindset also needs to shift around, having, it's really not necessary to have that suite of, producers or to have huge production value stuff. it doesn't take that much.
Right.
So I think that's definitely a myth that you need tons of money and lots of time.
You do need the catering ban though. That's actually, that's a non-negotiable, absolutely.
Yeah. Can a content strategy be effective without video?
No, it has to have video. It has to have video. Of course it can. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's great written content out there nowadays that's still engaging, right? Comes down to story and knowing your audience. But video helps, but it's not like a necessity.
Right. I think that what I always believe is that you market to your audience through the most appropriate channel.
Yeah.
So think about the product that you have and think about the best way to get information to your audience. Sometimes that is video, sometimes it is not. I've marketed products where social media hasn't been important for us, or wouldn't move the needle for the type of product I'm selling. And I think video is applicable there. But that said, the idea that if you already have content, if you already have blogs, if you already have ebooks, white papers, you can very easily take that content and augment it with video, supplement it with video. That is a good first step.
Right, to be able to experiment with your audience. Does this format work for our audience? So video is definitely having a moment around the democratization of video. So we have tools, platforms, hosting solutions galore. You know, how should B2B brands be really capitalizing on this moment right now?
I think, like you said, there are so many different products, from what you do to what I do at Beyond. Companies like Animoto that allow you to just string images together and add movement. I think that that's really the key, is that movement. And that it doesn't have to be this massively stylized production. You can find tools from software to using your own iPhone or Android phone, to be democratic.
Even an Android phone.
Even an Android phone. You know, the idea that you have those tools at hand, and you might need, you know, maybe a special lens or a good microphone, a little bit of good lighting, some sound panels, you know, that kind of thing. It's really not that challenging for anyone to make good video today.
It's never been easier to start, right? And I would encourage people, like you said, Stacy, there's so many applications out there, tools, just start playing with it. So you understand kind of where it fits, the limits and constraints with it, and then use that to help dictate maybe more of a content strategy around what's available to you.
And I think there's a desire for brands to become sort of a Netflix overnight, and we've talked earlier about this sort of crawl, walk, run formula for getting momentum behind your video and feeling comfortable around that. You know, where should marketers start, and what does that journey look like?
Like we talked a little bit earlier, you know, even that simple thing of just taking your written content, your blog content.
I love that.
It's a great starting point for a script. So taking that and then converting it into video, putting that video above the blog or underneath the blog, test and measure, that type of thing. It's just an easy way to get started. I think managing people's expectations is really important too. So
tell me about that.
So it's a little bit of a curve, right? So when we're working with our clients, like some of them are just getting started with video. So you're not going to hit it out of the park straight away. Like you need to know that it's going to be a ramp up, and give yourself enough time to really see the feedback on it. Because some of this content, especially if you're playing in more longer form YouTube stuff, like it's a long tail. You got to build that audience, you know, look at the interactions and stuff. And so I think when you start that journey with content, realize that it's going to get easier and easier. You're going to create a natural momentum when it becomes an everyday practice as well. And give yourself a good runway for it.
And I think your audience is on that journey with you. There's no expectation that you're going to be a blockbuster studio out of the gate. And so they're going to welcome you experimenting with a video as a way for them to understand your brand and then be on the same journey with you.
And you can make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes.
And that's why, again, talking about democratization and the idea that there's all these different somewhat inexpensive tools and ways to make video means you can iterate on video. And it's not like it used to be, where you went to an agency and you spent a lot of money and you got this great video, but then you wanted to change it. The person that was interviewed in the video left the company, or
that happens all the time.
You put statistics in there that have radically changed. And so you need to make changes to that, and or you're looking at your engagement statistics, you know, through your hosting provider or something like that, and seeing, you know, I get this far in the video and engagement drops. So how can I fix that? You're able to do that when you're doing video consistently, when you're using tools that don't cost a lot of money, and when you have that kind of time, take advantage of what the digital world has to offer in telling you, hey, this content is good to hear, now you need to fix this piece of it, and you can do that with video now, and I think you weren't able to do that before.
I think agile content creation is so important nowadays, and we were presenting on this yesterday just about creating some effective KPIs around your video content as well. So looking at really, what do you want to achieve with this video as a starting point, right? And like setting it correctly.
I think too often we get so excited about video, we're like, let's just create a video,
get it out there, it's done.
And we're like, was it successful?
I don't know, because we didn't establish what we're actually tracking and what success looked like. Right, so when you start doing that from the beginning, as the ramp up is continuing, just to Stacy's point, when you can iterate with content and go, hey, actually that thumbnail wasn't performing that well, let's swap it out, let's change that call to action. And then as you see that grow over time, one thing I would say is that consistency is one of the most important things. If you're getting started on your video journey, like, don't just do 3 videos and then stop, like that's bad. So if you're going to commit to something, even if it's just less, do it consistently, once a week, and create that pattern, and then start ramping up. Absolutely.
So in a lot of sort of content marketing 101, you hear about content marketers developing a strategy or an editorial calendar based on the buyer's journey and making sure that all of their content is really guiding them through that funnel, if you will. When doing video, should you be thinking about that in the same way, mapping it to a buyer's journey, or does it deserve its own framework?
There's this great framework that Google came out with in 2014 as part of their YouTube playbook, and it's called the Hero Hub Help Model. So Google it, guys, it's really interesting. But it's basically a pyramid, and they said that brands should create content across those 3 tiers. So your hero content is your big budget pieces, so it's about mass awareness, kind of top of funnel sort of stuff. High production value, that type of thing. Hub content is more episodic content, so that's going to be stuff that is more push content designed for your prime audience. And then your help content, think more like how-to content, right? So it's the stuff that your audience is searching for. So as you go down the pyramid, it's also increase in volume and frequency as well.
I love that.
And so that can be mapped to a typical sales funnel and the different use cases for video as well.
And if you're already doing that with your content, so you're already mapping current content to the buyer's journey. So you already have those pieces that may or may not include video. So attaching video or doing what we talked about before, using that content as a jump off point for video means you're really already mapped, and it's just augmenting what you already have, seeing what works, and then deciding, I need more video at the hero level, right? I need more higher production stuff, I need to figure out how to do that. Or I want to do a video series at this level, right? And so that map, I think, is already there.
100%. As brands start to get more curious about how they can take sort of their consumer video preferences to their brand, things like episodic serialized content becoming a Netflix, how would one get started knowing that they don't have 6 cameras and a food truck outside? How can that be sort of a scalable approach? You guys talked about batching at some point. Like, how would somebody get started pulling off episodic content?
So I think that we as B2B marketers tend to think that anything that's consumer driven isn't appropriate for us, right? We can't be really funny, we can't employ the things that we find entertaining in our consumer lives, and I think that's crazy. I think that we're all consumers, no matter whether we're buying for ourselves and our families or buying for our business. We have a different mindset financially that we approach things with, but emotionally and behaviorally, we are the same. So the idea of doing episodic content and employing storytelling tropes, for example, like cliffhangers. Cliffhangers are great in a video series. Taking someone up to a certain point and saying, oh my God, what happens to this person next? So character development, also really important. Using scenarios, using hero stories, beginning in the middle, right? Employing the same types of things that we find entertaining in the entertainment we consume in the B2B world can definitely make your videos really pop and really engaging.
And it's going to rise above the noise of sort of your standard customer case
interview. Here's my CEO talking about why our solution is the best thing.
Snooze fest.
Exactly.
And understanding your audience too, because even when we think about series-based content versus serialized content as well, I mean, when you look at that sort of series stuff, that's really can be stuff, even with product demos, like how do you reinvent that too? So we've got a client, Atlassian, have done a great series around Kanban.
Yeah.
So just talking about the Japanese manufacturing process. Now for them, they took that initial idea, understanding their audience, wanting to learn about that, and created a 5-part series around it that actually at the end of the day is really promoting Trello as a product too. So you can even take it for stuff that's not necessarily that hero's journey, and make something that's interesting when you know your audience.
Yeah, yeah. So in all the discussion around video and its role, you know, in B2B marketing, should we be looking at distribution differently? We talk a lot about how to produce it, how to prep for it. What about distribution? That's so important, because without distribution, your video content is moot.
So I think there was some mindsets maybe a couple of years ago about creating like one video for all.
Yeah.
You know, and we saw that a little bit where it was like, I've done a video and now throw it everywhere.
Right.
And you really need to think about channel first, right? So where are you putting this video? Because that's going to dictate your creative. It's going to dictate your time format. So how much time do you have to tell a story? You know, even just sort of your aspect ratio and all that sort of stuff. So we really work with our clients in that capacity, going, well, what's your objective? Where is this going to go? All right, how do we take that story and adjust it for those different platforms? So I think you got to work backwards a little bit with that.
Right, and I think, you know, again, it's key to remember from this perspective that you also need to be able to track that video and what it's doing and how it's, you know, how it's delivering some type of return on investment for the effort you're putting in. Even if it's not as expensive as it used to be, you're still expending effort, and you know, you want to see an ROI come from that. So the idea of being able to track engagement using a, you know, either whether you're using a hosting provider or you're on YouTube or something like that, knowing what your success looks like is really important as well.
And then how do you know, once you've understood how and where to pull those metrics, how do you use that to frame a discussion with your executives to get even more investment in video? Yeah,
I think that for one, your executives are they already understand that video is important because they're seeing it. They're watching their own videos, they're watching their families watch videos, and I think they really get it. But being able to test video, just like you test everything else, is really important to show that value. So the idea of doing A/B testing with a video at the top of an email or an animated GIF at the top of an email versus one without, or you know, putting a social media post with a static image versus a social media post with a video, you are going to see increased engagement. At 100%, your conversion rates will exponentially increase by using video, and being able to show that to you know, the budget holders is key.
Yeah, it's interesting too, I think, as well, understanding, again, coming back to the objective. So what is our key objective for this video? And making sure that you're not trying to do too much with one piece of content. Like, it's not going to solve world hunger. Right? And so knowing that we just want to increase click-throughs on this type of thing. And then internal PR, I think, is really important. Tell people
brand
what you're
value,
doing.
and and you talk about consistency, right, within videos, and what that made me think about is also brand consistency. So the idea of, you know, people sometimes will look at video and they go nuts, and it's like, oh, I want to do these things and I want to do this stuff. It's like, come to it as a marketer, right? Come to it and look at your brand, and you don't develop video in a different way in that sense, right? Think of your audience, think of how it's going to be distributed, what are the channels it's going through. You write a brief, just like you're writing a brief for any other piece of content, right? You fit it into that editorial calendar. It just becomes one of the many things that you're developing over the course of a year. And then, you know, when you approach it from that standpoint, and then get into script writing and storyboarding and really think about it, then, you know, you're able to really prove value and maintain that brand consistency across all of your content.
And when you think about the balance of, you know, videos versus ebooks versus blogs, as you see brands start to adopt more video as part of their content strategy, do you see them doing less of other things to accommodate video, or is just video an additive kind of growing on top of your regular content strategy?
It's a little bit of both. I'd say there's a slight decrease in some other things, but only because maybe they've tried some stuff and it hasn't resonated, it hasn't worked.
Right.
And so they're going, okay, well now's the time, maybe I've got some budget set aside that I can start to invest in video.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that all that other stuff is
all that time.
away,
all that time we used to spend on QR codes and guerrilla marketing.
Oh my
They're
God.
coming back.
Now
QR codes
is now been moved to video.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's, I mean, like you said, you follow different trends in marketing, and video is what's important right now.
Yeah.
It's what's grabbing people's attention. We have no time to do anything, and so it's like, let's get them hooked right away.
Yeah.
So it may be a trade-off sometimes between, I want to put a lot of work into this really great long form piece of content, but I think I need to slate some videos in here first and work on the long form piece by piece until I can get it done. So it really is time allocation, and that totally depends on your team size and your resources.
I mean, speaking of teams, as brands start to invest more in video, are they hiring differently? Are they structuring their teams differently to accommodate this new trend?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
what does that look like?
I think that you're looking at hiring video producers as a marketing resource, and if you can't do that, hiring designers that have some type of visual storytelling bent, right? Who can really translate and help with video. People who can script write for video. So hiring a copywriter versus hiring someone who would be better at more of that long form content, depending on how critical video is for your particular product, your company, your team. I've definitely seen a shift in how people are hiring.
Yeah, I think bringing the storytellers in-house is really good, because you want someone to own your brand, especially when they're dealing with external vendors. And if they understand video and can speak video, that's going to create a lot more efficiencies for you as well. I think what's an interesting thing to see with a lot of the companies that we work with, we're helping them scale video content. And when they hire, it's an interesting thing. They go, we're going to do video. We're going to hire we got this great kid. He's coming in and he can do it all. Which is not a bad way to get started, but almost immediately that person is just slammed. Because everyone goes, we do video now. And so, oh, I want to do this, which is cool. There's an excitement around it, but then scalability is a real challenge.
Well, I mean, even as a video company, right? So we talked about this earlier. The idea that, when I first started at Beyond, we were small. And our goal was to get a piece of video with every piece of content that we put out there, because we were a video company and we couldn't do it. We did not have enough internal resources to be able to eat our own dog food. Right. And so
I just wish there was a company that could do that. If only someone came up with an idea.
But over time though, we've built a video production team. We realize how critical it is. And so the idea that even now though, with a full-blown video production team, we still have people who come to us all the time and say, I want a video for this. I'm doing this demo, I need a video. I need a new help center video for this. I need to do this. And our video team is constantly swamped.
Is there ever a notion, because everybody wants to do video, is there opportunities where it's like, actually video is not the right format for that idea? Do you ever have to push back on that?
I think so. And in no way are we going like video is the answer for everything. We love it. It's a great medium. But I think even as a consumer, there are some things that I'm like, I actually would just like to read this. So I definitely think there are situations where it's not appropriate. And
especially in, I think video can be a great substitute for face-to-face communication. But even phone-based communication. So the idea of talking to someone, hearing, seeing their facial expressions and hearing their cadence and things like that, definitely sometimes more appropriate to use other methods, right? I think a lot of people look at video and say, well, I'm going to push this video out there and it says everything I need to say. So I'm done. Right? And I mean, we all know that it's why we have drip campaigns, right? It's why we continue to touch consumers, right? Or our buyers. It's like, we want, we want this email, and then we'll send a video, and then we'll send them the ebook, or it's, we track and personalize on our website, right? It's why we do all those things, because it's not always video is the answer.
Right. I want to double back to this notion of hiring producers, because my wheels were turning about maybe some content marketers that are listening to this stream, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, my CMO is going to be hiring a bunch of producers. Is my job safe? Like, as a content marketer, how do I need to be thinking about adapting my skill set or evolving my skill set to be more valuable in this adoption of video for my brand?
Right. Well, I mean, look, as content marketers, you're already looking at a group of great writers.
Yeah.
Right.
Storytellers.
So, exactly. And so the idea of just translating, print or written storytelling to visual, I don't think it's that difficult. I think that definitely there's a learning curve for script writing for video. I think that as long form content writers, I personally was one, and I still have a hard time with script writing. So the idea of getting education, coming to conferences like this, and learning about how to take that long form content and write conversationally. A lot of people want to write a script based on a paragraph and instead of based on a conversation, or how we would normally talk to each other. And so that type of thing, as well as then, looking at storyboarding and whatnot, kind of having a basic framework of how a video is produced. Our content team and our video team work in tandem. They are completely connected, and they each drive different pieces of our strategy. So I wouldn't say, fearing for a job would be an issue. The idea is like, it's making what you're doing better. It's like you're a team, right?
I think you got to decide how much you want to take on too. I think that that's more of a bandwidth question. So, as a content marketer, you're going like, here's all the stuff that my hands touch, right? And video can sit next to it there, but do you really want to be involved in doing everything that role would do? And I think you're right, like bringing a producer in wouldn't necessarily replace that individual. It's more working in tandem. Content marketers providing story and all that, but the producer understands the video terminology, how it works, like translation, that type of thing. And I think that's actually a really helpful resource.
I think that's a really good point, because I think marketers are always wanting to be part of the next big thing. And at some point you need to ask yourself, where do I want my career to go, and how does video sort of play into that?
Sure. I mean, we all, like, you think about when, for me, when the internet became this viable thing, right? I was doing writing and design and, events and print marketing, print advertising, right? And I had to figure out, do I want to learn how to code and build websites? And so I started, and I learned, and I did a little bit, and then the technology got so advanced for me that I had to make a decision to say, do I want to keep doing, being a generalist, keep doing a lot of different things in marketing, or do I want to go down the web design path? And so I pulled myself back and said, no, that's not where I want my career to go. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about. It's that the new shiny thing is always there, and definitely we need to be educated on it. We need to know what it is. We need to know how to employ
how
it.
it plays into the
but
broader
there
strategy.
will also be people who are really good at, like you said, like a video producer understands camera movement. They understand tracking. They understand things that are very difficult for someone who doesn't come up in that world to really understand. So I think, again, there's so much synergy between that, but video definitely is here to stay.
And I think finding the right partners can help you with that too. You know, where it is like, maybe you don't put on another head count, but who's there that can work with you as a vendor, an external vendor that can, as a marketer, can almost kind of marry those skill sets together to help you create content.
I think ever since, content marketing has been a thing, us content marketers have been hiding behind blogs and our ebooks and not really being the faces of our brands, right? Our words have been. So one of the things I've noticed on my team is that varying level of comfortableness in front of the camera. How have you guys helped clients or people within your team start to become more comfortable in front of the camera? Because even, the most witty, smart marketer can get behind a camera and they freeze, right? Or they become a different person, So how do you kind of cope as a marketer?
Well, first of all, you're doing great. Okay, you seem very comfortable, so don't worry. I too struggle with being in front of the camera.
I can tell.
As a very humble individual. I mean, we get it a lot because, again, people are getting started with their video journey, and they ask us, my C-suite, great people, super nervous, in front of camera. And I think when you have traditional production comes in, and you have multiple cameras and lights and all that sort of, it can be kind of intimidating, and for us, we go, there's a couple of things, simply just taking a deep breath before you start, smiling, and then, okay, we're gonna roll. Take your time.
Slow down.
And I would say just start, set up an iPhone. Just put it in front of, just, hey, practice in front of the iPhone and do that. Take your time. The more that you do it, the more comfortable that you get. You know, with
and I think interviewing too, right? So the idea of this type of setup where we're having a conversation, people can forget that they're in front of cameras and things like that. And so, and it adds that kind of personal touch too, to whether, you know, you're not just a talking head, right? You're seeing interaction and more warmth. And I think that works. And then, you know, for us as an animated video company, you can build a character similar to who you are, and then all you need is a voiceover. So if you've got someone who's really uncomfortable, the idea that you can make their character, you know, lip sync and talk in a way like that, sometimes that makes people a lot more comfortable. Just doing the voiceover work in a booth, knowing, you know, that no one can see them, right? I'm the same way. I mean, I don't feel, you know,
You're also doing great though. You have nothing to worry about.
You would never know. But yeah, so sometimes, you know, I'll go in and do some voiceover work as well for my character when, you know, I don't feel like really wanting to be on camera for certain things. And it makes people, you know, any way you can ease them into it. And to be honest, if you know, videos don't need people all the time, right? You know, you can get a lot across with just images or words without having that character development. It's great and it works really well, but it's not necessary all the time.
I love the interviewing trick. I think you're absolutely right. We were having that conversation the other day with a client that was you know, very technical information, and so you've got those SMEs, right? This is always a challenge, especially when like developers, scientists, all this sort of stuff, like very smart people, not the best for a camera. And we were talking about that. Well, if you just put the camera here and you have a conversation with them, you start getting this really great content coming up. And it humanizes the information as well, which is hugely important.
Well, and I think too, it makes the subject that might be a little bit nervous feel less solely responsible for the success of that video because you guys are having a conversation. It's a shared responsibility.
Right.
A couple questions left because I know we want to get back to this amazing conference happening behind us.
Well, this milk is fantastic, by the way. It's such a great idea, guys.
Yum, and the tum. On that note, what are some of the trends that you're seeing for B2B right now? You know, besides what we've already talked about, but sort of those big bets.
Yeah. I think, you know, with the whole democratization of video, very accessible nowadays, we're seeing all these interesting use cases pop up too. So we always work with our clients and kind of ask them, like, if video is free, you can turn around super quickly, what would you do? And you start getting these little ideas. One of the most exciting spaces for us is using video as a sales tool. And so, you know, we do this as a company, some of our clients do this as well, where they create one-to-one personalized videos for prospects. You've experienced that a little bit.
That's how Chad came to me.
That's how
last year at Content Marketing
That's
World.
right. Sent you a video and I was like, Megan, great, you know, presentation, and here we are a year later.
You just had me at great presentation.
I think I had you at saying your name and it came up and you're like, it's for me. And that's the thing, right? So we live in a world where personalized experiences are just becoming so important.
It feels good, it's feel-good content.
Exactly.
And the idea that you can take that and not just create something personalized to someone's company, but personalized to them in particular. So even introductions. So being able to film a quick intro of yourself before you make a sales call or before you send that string of emails, the idea that they know who you are as a person humanizes that connection and that interaction and opens people up to being more receptive to having a sales conversation. We all are inundated every day with emails and tricks to try to get us to read the emails and here's a free thing and sign up for a demo and can I have 27 minutes of your time?
Seconds. They don't even need minutes. They only need 30 seconds.
And it's just been any type of gimmick that gets people to take notice, but video is so powerful. And so instead of that, saying, hi, I'm Stacy and I work for this company and I think I can help you. If you have a couple of minutes, I'd love to speak with you. And that does so much better than 16 emails that talk about all the features that your product has.
It's such an exciting space. I mean, we're working with a few brands just doing that type of thing, and the uptick in meetings booked is incredible, right? And I think it's to that point. You've just humanized that interaction, and you go, okay, it's not an email campaign. It's not just like something that's been blasted out to 3,000 people. It's like, you took time and effort to make that for me. Okay, well, in exchange, you create almost a little bit of a debt, you know? then I'll give you some time to hear what you
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think also just seeing somebody's face brings a level of, genuine that's hard to find or hard to read just with words in an email.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Sure.
One more question before we move to Q&A.
Oh, sorry. Just to interrupt you quickly,
Sure, what's
because I
that?
will say with that side of things in sales, another exciting space that we're seeing is LinkedIn. And I'm just saying that because you bought us milk.
Yeah.
But from a sales point of view, because again, like from sales, social selling, and putting video content on the platform nowadays, you guys are prioritizing it so highly. We work with a lot of our clients to go, not only are we doing stuff for the other channels, but you're B2B.
Yeah.
Like you have to be in this sort of space.
Yeah.
And so thought leadership content as well, we're doing a lot of that type of thing too. Promotions for events like this. And so we're seeing some really great engagement there as well. So I think that whole space, sales, LinkedIn, is super exciting.
I did not pay him for that, so thank you.
Just free milk.
One last question before we move to Q&A. What does video look like for B2B brands 10 years from now? And how do we start to embrace or prepare for that today?
It's all holograms. Let's be honest, it's just going to be holograms.
Tupac's back?
He's back.
There are no people anymore now. I think when you look at it, going back to that personal element and the idea that video becomes even more ubiquitous. The idea that you can even now, there are apps that allow you to just video record from your laptop, from your phone, and push send. We'll be doing a lot more of that, right? Instead of getting up and thinking, okay, I'm going to send this email to a colleague, I'm going to press the record button, say what I need to say, and push send. Because it's just easier. We're growing apart as far as remote work is concerned. Companies are expanding, people are moving out of cities, they're getting really crowded and expensive to live in. So the idea of that connection, we talked before about a personal connection that you can't replace this, right, with anything. But video is the next best thing. So the idea of being able to communicate in that way, see facial expressions and so on, versus sending an email. We're already doing it with video conferencing. Pretty soon, I think we're going to be communicating in short bursts of video versus email or even text messages.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. People just need to become more comfortable in front of camera. So what can they do to prep now? Like, hey, you're going to be in front of camera.
Yeah,
it's going to happen. It's just the way that the world's working. So practice that. And they're doing more. Like, they're very used to Instagram stories and all that sort of stuff. I think AI editing is an interesting space.
Okay.
We're not there yet. We're keeping an eye on things, but I think as far as how that technology progresses, what that's going to do is just speed up the actual production process. So it's going to take away some of those limitations. But at the end of the day, storytelling is going to be so important. As far as that sort of creative element, like how do you make something really great? We can, right now with AI, we can bang a bunch of clips together, but how do you actually create a narrative through that?
And storytelling is having a moment because we crave that authenticity of experience.
It comes through video more so than other formats.
Exactly. So you think about trends in marketing, and I have a good laugh about QR codes and guerrilla marketing and things like that, but you start to see things come back around that make sense, right? That's why that long form content or reading books, physical books, won't go away. People want the tactile, they want comfort. And so storytelling is something that has been around as long as people have been around. And so the idea that in a very tumultuous world right now, that we're moving to storytelling, that's no coincidence, right? It's like you want to have a more communicative experience, authentic experience, and so storytelling is the way to get it.
Yeah. So we're going to move to Q&A. The stream has been blowing up with really great questions. One question that came through is that the balance between high production and low production. So often high pro is just too far-fetched for a brand to start to adopt. Low pro risks maybe cheapening your brand. How do you prescribe marketers think about that balance between the two?
Yeah, it's super interesting, right? So we were having a conversation the other day with a brand, and they were actually telling me that we do this polished production stuff, like that's the video content we're producing, but they were actually starting to see that drop off of engagement, and that is a trend that's around, right? So when you see something that is overly produced, maybe it looks really beautiful, but people are starting to kind of just call bull a little bit on it. They're like, well, why should I believe that? Obviously, like, this thing has been scripted to the nines, like it is overly polished. And then you have a video in there that's like, we set up one camera and the CEO is giving a message down there, and you're obviously like, it's very authentic. And people immediately will start connect to that, go, well, there's more believability in that as well. And so I think that's where we see there's a place for polished stuff, advertising, that's fine, but there's just such a big space for more authentic, real content.
And look, low pro doesn't have to mean bad video.
Totally.
And I think we tend to look at, because of the cost, right? The idea that I'm spending a ton of money, we need to separate value, monetary value from actual value. So the idea that what you said is that it's some type of interview style conversation that's filmed on a phone, as long as it's on a tripod and not shaky.
There's low pro that's crap. Let's be honest, and that's what you steer away from.
But it doesn't necessarily have to mean one or the other, right? So the idea that you can have a setup that works for you, have those videos, low production doesn't have to mean low quality.
It's actually becoming part of the video strategy. And yesterday in one of our sessions, one of our creative partners, she's the executive producer at America's Test Kitchen, and she works with a lot of our clients, but their strategy, iPhone video actually has a dedicated content series there. And she was showing an example of that. So it's on a gimbal, we got stable footage, but it's just a tracking shot, and it's someone that's just great in front of camera. And she's like, we batched 5-6 of these in a day, but that was the quality that they purposefully went with for that type of content.
Sure. I mean, look at the billboards you see. I mean, we see them every day in San Francisco, shot on an iPhone, right? The idea that professional photographers are using iPhones to take amazing photographs. The same as with video, right? The idea that you have this massively powerful video tool in your hand doesn't, again, use it, right? It's you can create really exceptional things without having to go completely crazy.
So if somebody was to start bringing in low pro more confidently into their strategy, what sort of the 2 tools or equipment that somebody would need to not have a crap video?
Audio is going to be your biggest thing.
Right?
So you got the tiny little mic on your phone. So getting an external microphone that plugs into it, wireless, there's so many things in that space right now. That's going to immediately level it up. I'd say good lighting too. So just some basic education around using natural light. It's going to be your best friend. Throw in a third one is stability, right? Now there's image stabilization now on a lot of those phones, so you can actually kind of hold it with 2 hands and do some tricks there that actually, and it gets really smooth.
Is that through an app, or is that just through your phone?
That's just in the iPhone. That's just the lens stabilization. And then you've got a gimbal, which is what you have, and that can give you some really great sweeping shots. So even investing $500, you can get a really nice little kit to make some great content.
Definitely the audio is a big one. We recommend when folks do videos with Beyond that they find a quiet space and get a decent microphone and record their voiceovers separately for the animated videos. That way you've got that really nice sound quality, because nothing ruins a video faster than in the background or weird wind
shaky
noise
footage, but bad audio, they're out.
On that note, we are out of time. We have to get back to the show. You guys, this has been so fun. Thank you for waking up early and doing Live with Marketers this morning. Thank you for everybody who's been on our stream or on Slido. If you're on Slido, we would love it if you could take the survey. We're always trying to improve these shows to make them more impactful for our viewers. Other than that, look next week. I'll do a quick video on the tips that we took away from this time together, and have a great day.